We all do it, share secrets. Maybe it's that quick call about a coworker after a meeting, or just scrolling Twitter, seeing what craziness some celebrity is up to now. There's definitely this like little thrill, maybe a bit of guilt when you're sharing info about someone who isn't there. And culturally, yeah, we've always kind of painted gossip as this, bad thing, petty, destructive, shallow. But what if that's just fundamentally wrong? What if gossiping is actually this really sophisticated thing humans evolved? We're digging into some serious science today that suggests gossip isn't some social mistake. It might actually be the core operating system that helped us build societies.
That really is the big twist we're exploring. This deep dive, it really challenges that whole negative view of gossip, and it uses, rigorous peer-reviewed science. We've pulled together findings from some major journals, P&AS proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences and scientific reports. These include some pretty advanced modeling papers, too. So our mission today is really to get past all the judgment, and just unpack the mechanics. We want to show you the actual evidence. Evidence that suggests sharing this kind of information about people who aren't present is actually a complex cognitive process. And it's one that, well, it seems to promote cooperation on a large scale, helps groups stick together, and even helps us learn socially.
Okay, let's definitely unpack that. If it's so important, why did we evolve this? Where does it start? You mentioned primates earlier.
Yeah, we absolutely have to start there with the work of Robin Dunbar. He's an evolutionary psychologist, and he came up with this idea called the social grooming hypothesis. Basically, if you look at chimps, other primates, they spend a huge amount of time, like maybe up to 20% of their day, just physically grooming each other, picking nits, that sort of thing.
Right, it's very hands-on, literally, like showing I've got your back, I'll pick the bugs off it.
Exactly. It's a physical demonstration of trust, of alliance. But the thing is, it takes so much time. And that time commitment, it puts a hard cap on how big their groups can get, usually around maybe 50 individuals.
Okay, so there's a bottleneck.
A major bottleneck. Dunbar's theory is that once we humans started developing complex language, we needed a way to maintain those bonds, but, more efficiently, scalably.
So language was the workaround, the
Yeah.
upgrade.
It really was. Language, and specifically the kind of talk we call gossip, sharing info about who's trustworthy, who's cheating, that kind of thing. It evolved as the verbal version of grooming, but it's way, way more efficient. It's like a massive upgrade for social bonding.
Okay, I love this. So if physical grooming is like, I don't know, walking across the galaxy to keep your friendships going, gossip is like hitting the hyperdrive button. Social connection, warp speed.
That's a great analogy, yeah. And it allows us to manage much bigger groups, up to about 150 people, which you might know as Dunbar's number. That's way bigger than any other primate group manages.
Okay, but hang on. If it's so essential, this evolved tool, why the guilt? Why does it still have such a bad reputation culturally if it's like biologically necessary for society?
That is such a key question, and it really gets at the heart of gossip's duality, right? It can be used for good for the group, or it can be used selfishly. But biologically speaking, our brains aren't really focused on the morality bit. They're focused on the reward.
The reward. What kind of reward?
Well, there's actual neurobiology here. Studies show a really clear link between gossiping and, well, positive feelings. When people are sharing social information, their brains release significantly more oxytocin compared to other types of conversation.
Oxytocin, that's the love hormone, right? The one involved in bonding, trust, feeling connected.
Exactly. So our brain is literally giving us this little chemical hit, a reward for sharing secrets, for connecting this way.
Wow. So it's biological proof that this activity is actually designed to like strengthen the group, build alliances.
That hormonal response is definitely strong evidence for that. It helps explain how gossip functions to build cohesion. But the story gets even more interesting when you look at stress.
Right. I remember reading some earlier stuff suggesting gossip might like lower stress, reduce cortisol.
Yeah.
But the sources you sent over, they added some complexity there.
They really did. So while some initial studies hinted at a general stress reduction, there was this deeper dive, a psychophysiological study by Rednicki, Spakova, and colleagues, published in Scientific Reports in 2023. And they did something clever. They got pairs of friends, stressed them out using that lovely cold pressor test, putting their hands in ice water.
Ouch.
Yeah, and then they gave them a chance to gossip.
Did it chill them out, lower the cortisol?
Well, here's the nuance. The overall effect on cortisol. It was conditional. It depended on the person. Cortisol levels, that stress hormone, only dropped significantly during the gossip session for people who already scored high on a measure called tendency to gossip.
Wait, really? So gossiping only calms you down if you're already someone who gossips a lot.
It seems that way. It suggests it's not some universal stress cure-all. It's more like an effective coping tool, but specifically for people who already value and use gossip frequently, maybe as part of how they navigate their social world.
Huh. So the brain is rewarding a behavior that the person already finds valuable for social management or status or something.
Precisely. But honestly, the most striking finding from that Rudnicki study wasn't just about cortisol. It was what they found when they measured the autonomic nervous system, how engaged people were physiologically. Okay, get this. They found that gossip significantly increased two things that often go in opposite directions. It boosted sympathetic activity, that's like your arousal, your alertness, measured by skin conductance. And it also boosted parasympathetic activities, so specifically HFHRV, which is linked to social engagement, feeling connected.
Whoa. Okay, let me translate that for everyone listening. So increased arousal means your body's paying close attention, you're alert. And that increased parasympathetic activity, the heart rate variability thing, suggests you're feeling more socially connected, more engaged with the other person.
You got it. So gossip isn't just some idle, relaxing chat. It's actually this highly stimulating, emotionally engaging activity. It simultaneously makes you alert and promotes social bonding. It puts your brain in this unique state of high alert social focus.
That's intense. Not just idle chit-chat at all. It's like a mental workout.
Kind of, yeah. It's really engaging the social machinery of the brain.
Okay, so the chemical reward is clear, the engagement is clear. But let's shift gears a bit. The research suggests this isn't just happening randomly. It's not just about feelings. It's calculated, almost like an algorithm.
Absolutely. And there's actual cognitive neuroscience backing this up. Work out of Brown University, for example. They found that we humans have these really quite sophisticated mental algorithms running when we decide how and when to share gossip.
Seriously. So we're not just blabbing. Our brains are running some kind of predictive software.
That's a pretty good way to put it, yeah. When you're deciding who to tell some juicy piece of info, your brain is like subconsciously calculating at least two key things. How popular is the person you're telling? How connected are they? And also, how socially close are they to the person the gossip is about?
Wow.
And get the subconscious calculations. They actually mirror the kinds of algorithms that social media platforms use today to figure out what content might go viral.
No way. So our brains evolved these viral prediction engines for social information.
It certainly looks that way. We seem hardwired to spread socially relevant information effectively through our networks.
Okay, this strategic side, this calculation.
Yeah.
That has to be central to why gossip gives an evolutionary edge, right?
Yeah.
Which brings us to those game theory models you mentioned.
Yeah.
The 2024 PNAS paper.
Exactly. By Pan, Xiao, Now, and Gelfand, they have affiliations across several places, like the Chinese University of Hong Kong, University of Maryland, Stanford. And they built these agent-based models, basically computer simulations, to try and figure out why gossiping persists as a strategy, even though it, takes time and energy.
Right. So what did the models show?
Well, their model outlines what they call the evolutionary cycle of gossip. And its persistence, why it keeps going, seems to depend on two functions working together. The first one is pretty straightforward: reputation dissemination, spreading information, good or bad. This lets everyone in the community kind of update their mental scores for other people, helps you make better choices about who to cooperate with, better partner selection.
Okay, makes sense. Share the intel so we all know who's who. What's the second function? You said that was the game changer.
It really is. The second function is selfishness deterrence. Just the threat of being gossiped about, the possibility that your bad behavior might get out, is often powerful enough to make people behave more cooperatively, just to protect their reputation.
Ah, so it's like a decentralized police force. Mutual surveillance, keeping everyone in line because they know someone might be watching and talking.
That's a perfect way to think about it. It underpins indirect reciprocity. The fear of social consequences can be a stronger motivator than direct punishment sometimes.
So what did the simulation actually find? Did everyone just become a cooperator?
Not quite, and this is where it gets really fascinating. So about 90% of the simulated agents evolved to be gossipers, which makes sense if it's beneficial. But the cooperation strategies were really mixed. The majority, 57%, ended up as what the model calls exploitive agents.
Exploitive. That sounds bad, like people who just cheat.
Pretty much. They'll defect, act selfishly if they think they can get away with it.
Okay, hold on. If most agents are exploitive, how does the whole system not just collapse into chaos? How does cooperation survive?
Because of this crucial minority group. About 18% of the agents evolved to be opportunistic.
Okay, opportunistic versus exploitive. Break that down. What's the difference in how they act?
Right. So exploitive agents are just always selfish, doesn't matter who they're interacting with, always defect. Opportunistic agents, though, they're also fundamentally selfish, but they're smart about it. They only cooperate when they know they're interacting with a gossiper.
Uh, so they cooperate only when there's a direct threat to their reputation.
Exactly. They are conditional cooperators, driven purely by that fear of getting a bad name. Reputation management is their whole game. And it's this behavior from this opportunistic minority that actually gives the gossipers their evolutionary advantage. Because gossipers make the opportunists cooperate. This dynamic keeps the overall cooperation rate surprisingly high, around 78% in their simulations.
Mhm.
Gossip essentially acts as the engine that forces potentially selfish individuals to act cooperatively, at least sometimes.
That is, wow, profound, actually.
Mm.
Our whole system of large-scale trust might hinge on this constant, subtle process of watching each other and sharing what we see.
It forces that indirect reciprocity we talked about. Gossip becomes this computational foundation for managing reputations across big groups. It lets us coordinate successfully with hundreds of people, most of whom we've never even met directly, just based on this shared distributed knowledge about who's trustworthy.
Which brings us right back to the practical side of things. Beyond just making cooperation possible, the most obvious day-to-day benefit seems to be this idea of vicarious learning. Like, I don't have to get burned by trusting someone unreliable if you've already told me, hey, watch out for that person.
Exactly right. Gossip lets you navigate these really complex, sometimes risky social worlds indirectly. You learn who's who without having to suffer all the negative consequences yourself. It's a critical part of our social intelligence.
Okay, but we can't ignore the elephant in the room, or maybe the smartphone in the hand. How does all this ancient evolutionary wiring play out now in the 21st century?
Yeah, that's the crucial question. Digital technologies, especially social media, are essentially putting this evolved system on steroids. These platforms are incredibly good at driving engagement because they tap directly into that ancient impulse we have to share information about others, to manage reputations, to see where we stand.
So the algorithms are basically hacking our evolutionary need to gossip, using it to keep us scrolling, clicking, engaging.
That's a big part of it. And the danger is when you amplify that impulse, but you combine it with, less accountability, anonymity sometimes, and this massive global reach, it can really crank up the harmful side of gossip, the pathological aspects. We're seeing studies now linking things like excessive celebrity gossip consumption to patterns that look like behavioral addiction.
Yeah, and even offline, like in a workplace, the impact of gossip seems to depend entirely on why people think it's happening.
Absolutely. Research in organizations shows that when gossip is seen as pro-socially motivated, like you're warning your team about a manager who's unfair, trying to protect the group, it can actually enhance trust and cohesion within that group. But if it's perceived as purely self-serving, just trying to make a colleague look bad to get ahead, then it does the opposite. It completely shreds relationships and trust.
Wow, this has totally changed how I think about those hushed conversations by the water cooler.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try and boil this down. Key takeaways for you listening.
Okay, takeaway number one. Remember that deep evolutionary power. Gossip isn't trivial. It's this sophisticated adaptation that let humans move beyond the limits of physical grooming. It's what made large-scale cooperation possible.
Second, think of it as a social thermostat. It's chemically rewarding, it helps regulate our social bonds, it manages our emotional arousal in social settings, and for people who use it a lot, it can even help manage stress after conflicts. It's baked into our cognitive and emotional systems.
And finally, number three, it's the engine under the hood of reputation. Gossip is the computational system that drives human reputation management. It's essential for indirect reciprocity, for deterring selfishness, and it works because of those opportunistic agents managing their image.
So we know now our brains are running these incredibly efficient network algorithms, constantly figuring out who to listen to, what to share, all supposedly for the benefit of our group. But here's the rub for today. Those platform algorithms, the ones on our phones, they're optimizing for their bottom line, for their engagement metrics, not necessarily for our group's health or cohesion.
That's the tension, absolutely. Our ancient wiring meeting modern technology.
So here's the big question to leave you with. If gossip really is this necessary fundamental social tool,
Yeah.
how do we encourage the healthy kind, the pro-social gossip that protects the group, builds trust? How do we do that while we're swimming in these digital systems that seem perfectly designed to amplify the most harmful, the most addictive, the most viral rumors? Something to think about next time that notification pops up.